Hi guys, welcome to FST. Today we're going to do Chapter 1, Section 1. Chapter 1 is all about Introduction to Statistics. So we're kind of going to learn the basics of what statistics is all about. We're going to talk about tables and graphs, stem plots, dot plots, measures of center, measures of spread. We're going to talk about histograms and how to pick a good model. And then eventually we're going to talk about variance and standard deviation, which we'll get back to in later chapters. So section 1 is just on tables and graphs, so it should be pretty easy for you because hopefully you've done a lot of stuff with tables and graphs before in middle school. So section 1 is just called Exploring Data, and the first thing I want to talk about are some vocabulary words. So we've got population, sample, and variable. In your book are the definitions, so I'm just going to write them up here. So the definition for population is the set of all individuals or objects being studied. Okay, a sample. If you don't collect data from the entire population, then the sample is the part that you do collect data from. And then last we have a variable, which is a characteristic of a person or thing that can be classified ordered, counted, or measured. Okay, so using those definitions of our vocabulary words, what we're going to do is just identify the population variable and sample from the following statement. A physician takes a biopsy of a suspicious growth to check for malignancy. So looking at this statement, a physician takes a biopsy of a suspicious growth to check for malignancy, thinking about our population, remember the population is the entire thing that we are testing. So in this case, the population would be the growth, or the suspicious growth, because we want to test that whole growth. But our sample is just the actual part that we test, so that would be the biopsy. We took a biopsy. We didn't take the whole growth, we just took part of the growth, which is called a biopsy. And then the variable is what we're checking for. In this case, we're checking for malignancy. Alright, bar graphs are appropriate when one variable is categorical and the other is numerical. So categorical means that it's not a number, it's some sort of category. Like if I was talking about eye color, I could say blue, green, gray, brown. So all of those would be different eye colors. Those are categories rather than numbers. So if you have a category and a number, that's when a bar graph is useful. Circle graphs are useful when you're displaying information consisting of a sum and its component parts. So in other words, if I want to compare something to the whole, a circle graph is a really good way to do that. So we're going to talk about how to create a bar chart and a circle graph for the given information here, where we're talking about continents and the area of those continents. So I've got Africa, Antarctica, Asia, all these guys. I've got all my areas, and notice that they're in thousands of square miles. Okay, I also put a column here so that we could measure out the degrees for the sector in the circle graph. And the bar graph is going to be really easy for us to make. You can also do this on Google Docs if you want. to just make a bar graph or a circle graph in Google Docs. It's really easy. You can just go to the insert graph function and then you can kind of change your variables around. That'll be good for projects and stuff, but for homework and tests, I will want you to do it by hand, so I'm going to show you how to do it by hand now. Alright, now I'm going to make my bar graph. So, I have my X and Y axis. On my X axis, I'm going to put the continents. On the Y axis, I'm going to put my area in square miles. So first thing I notice is that my areas, my smallest one is 3,300 and my largest one is 17,400. So I need to determine an appropriate scale, and I'm going to go to 20,000. So that makes halfway between 10,000, and then this will be 5,000, and then this will be 15,000. Then for my continents, I'm going to have Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and then South and Central America. So for Africa, I noticed that it's 11,700, so I'm going to go up here to approximately 11,700, and I'm going to make my bar. Antarctica, I'm going to do the same thing. It's 5,400, so just slightly above the 5,000 mark I'll make my bar. Asia, 17,400, so that's going to be about halfway between my 15,000 and my 20,000. Australia is 3,300, so that's going to be underneath my 5,000 mark. Europe is 3,800, so that'll just be slightly above my Australia. North America is 9,400, so that'll be just below my 10,000 mark. And then Central and South America is 6,900, so that'll be about halfway between my 5,000 and 10,000 mark. Okay, so I've made my bar graph. Now, obviously, when you do this on graph paper, it'll be a lot more accurate than mine. Mine is very inaccurate. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about how to make a circle graph. So to make our circle graph, you need to know the degrees of each sector. And remember that a circle graph compares each individual portion to the whole. So what we want to do is calculate the whole. So I need to figure out the total area that I have here in square miles. So I'm going to add all these together. When I add them all together, I get a total of 57,900 square miles. So if I were to compare each of these to my whole, if I'm just looking at the Africa portion, that's going to be 11,700 out of a total of 57,900. And that gives me about 0.202. Now remember that in a circle graph, if I go all the way around the circle, that's 360 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply this by 360, and that'll give me the total number of degrees that'll be that portion of my circle graph. So on my calculator, I'm just going to hit answer times 360, and I get 72.75. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for Antarctica. So I have 5,400 divided by 57,900. I'm going to take that answer times 360, and that gives me 33.57 degrees. Okay, I'm going to go through and fill in the rest of these. So this one is 108 degrees, 21 degrees, 24, 58, and 43. Okay, so now that I have all my degrees here, I can create my circle graph. And when you're creating your circle graph, you want to mark your center. And I would use a protractor to make sure that these angles are appropriate. I'm not going to use it up here just because I don't have a protractor tool that I can use, but I'm just going to estimate these. So 72 degrees, I know that's just slightly less than 90. This is my 72 degrees, which means that this portion is Africa. Okay. 108 degrees, that's going to be obtuse. So that's going to be about here. And that's Asia. Okay, 34 degrees, I'll estimate that about here. So that's Antarctica. 21 degrees, it's going to be slightly less than that. That'll be Australia. 24 degrees. That's Europe. Okay, 58 degrees. North America. And then my last one will be 43 degrees, and that should complete my circle with Central and South America. So I've got my circle graph, I've got my bar graph. Now we know how to create those. Your homework are going to be the book problems, and there's also Khan Academy activities. There's a whole bunch of them just because I think that this should be really easy for you guys. Reading tables, reading bar charts, creating bar charts, and reading pictographs. These are just some things that you should be able to review from middle school and your possibly Algebra 1 classes. So that's everything for Section 1.